After SCTV, it was 20 years before your next foray into sketch comedy with MADtv.
Boy, you are good.
Yeah, and when you were working with MADtv, did Key and Peele have their legs yet, or are they still?
They came
out of the
there
gate?
in my third season. Oh, I worked with those guys a lot.
Which one of you dim nuts is my Artful Dodger?
Hello, me old China plate. Artful Dodger here, pleased to make your acquaintance.
Okay, sell it to your mama, theater geek, okay?
Keegan's first day, and he was like a little kid. He was like, I don't know, in his mid-30s and late 30s. You know, he was not one of the kids. He was like a kid in a candy store. He was so happy to be there, and he couldn't talk to the writers enough. He couldn't have more ideas, and it never ended with him. He was always like that. Jordan kept more to himself and wrote a lot of his own stuff, a great deal of his own stuff, and was a taskmaster with the others when he would write something, and he would correct the cast and he would fix things right there on the stage, and it was fun to watch.
Almost like a director.
He knew it was going to happen, and he's a tremendous director.
Yes, that is Chris Kloos, and you've tuned into another episode of Comedy History 101, where we school you in comedy. I am Harmon, hello, and Chris is an Emmy Award-winning writer who has worked on SCTV, The Simpsons, Night Court, MADtv. I'm not just reading this, but I am. Chris got his start trying to hawk scripts to Saturday Night Live during the very first John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd season, which led him to be a staff writer with National Lampoon. And we are going to do a deep dive, specifically more into his work with SCTV and MADtv. But before we jump into the episode, a quick plug. On Thursday, May 7th, 7 p.m. at Under St. Mark's Theater in the Lower East Side, I'll be presenting my show, AI versus Human Roast Battle. Come out and see a human rapper take on a machine learning AI in a comedy roast battle of tomorrow. And I just performed the show last weekend in Phoenix, Arizona as part of a AI conference at ASU. And this month, we're going to see rapper Dex McBean take on AI stoner Abe Lincoln. And you can find out all about my show dates on my site, harmonleon.com, or on the social medias at harmonleon. Also, take some time to like, subscribe, comment, show love for Comedy History 101, wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. Also, check out our YouTube channel, which is really my YouTube channel, at Harmon Leon on YouTube. Or comment on our site, comedyhistory101.com, or on Instagram, comedyhist101. And now, without further ado,
You're stupid. Everybody's so stupid.
I'm trying to use the phone! Excuse me!
Comedy History 101.
yeah, nice meeting you. Are you in
Nice
New
meeting you.
Jersey?
I am. I live in northwestern New Jersey, in Sussex County, among the cows.
Amongst the cows.
Originally from New York City, yeah. Grew up in New York, lived in LA for 38 years, and we left 9 years ago. Because I promised my wife, we got married on the 14th of October, 1978. That's making me feel really old. So I said, look, we're going to go to LA, okay? Can we agree on that so I can be in show business? But we'll make it so big that within 5 years we can come back. I missed by 33.
Missed it by that much.
Missed it by 33 years. So we were there for 38 years, and then she finally said, "Have you made it yet?" And I said, "Well, no." sort of. So then we came back. We bought this house. We lived by a lake. Mm-hmm. We live on a lake. And
Lakes are good.
Yeah.
I'm all for lakes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful here. Come up sometime. You're in Brooklyn. Come on up.
Yeah, thank you. So just to jump in and first, let's
I didn't mean that.
To come out?
It was disingenuous bullshit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
To jump in,
Yeah.
tell us the circumstance which John Belushi referred to as an asshole.
Which time?
Oh, okay.
You probably
let's go
mean
chronologically.
It really is only one time. How did you know this story?
I do this thing called research.
Oh, fuck. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Preparation.
This is now I could drag this out, but I don't want to go too. I dine out on this story and have for many years. But okay, here's what happened. So I had a partner named Stu Kreisman, and we had formed a writing team, and I guess in those days you'd call it an amateur writing team, since we were both working in kind of real jobs in New York City.
What was the real job that you're working like?
Real job I was working on at that time. Here's another great story, but I was a what they call a day of air coordinator at Channel 2 WCBS television. It was kind of a place where or in my case, it was a place where you fucked up constantly.
Yeah, but then you're amateur writing, and suddenly you have, John Belushi, not only SNL star, but also you probably know from Lemmings.
I had sunshine out the country home. I've been on the cover of Rolling Stone.
Pretty much telling my story. I like it. Go on.
You came and you got out of the car and you had the script.
Oh my God, you're unbelievable. Well, you're close. 97% of this is true. I don't remember which parts, but So we were working at the CBS Broadcast Center at 57th Street between 10th and 11th, which is still there, and I understand is going to be sold soon. He had a job in the same place as I did, and we had been writing sketches for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half, and we had this big book of sketches that we had written, and we thought they were just brilliant. We would get high at night and then write and then think that this is the funniest thing that anyone's, and then you read it the next day and it's so great.
But back in that day, I mean, in modern 2026 time, you write sketches and you could jump up on stage that night, like UCB, whatever.
Yeah.
What was it like then? Was
there was nothing like that. The only thing that was around then was a place called The Improvisation on the West Side, and it was owned by Bud Friedman. It was the first comedy club in America. And it was
former Vietnamese restaurants.
Yeah, that's right.
I might host a podcast about comedy history.
Oh, I forgot that again.
Yeah. An interesting,
right.
Interesting tidbit. The brick wall that became iconic. That was just the brick wall of the Vietnamese restaurant.
That's true. And probably something before that. Anyway, so that was the only thing in town. So we had written all this stuff, and then along comes November, forgotten the date, like 25th, 1975. NBC 11:30 Saturday night, the very first episode of what was then called NBC's Saturday Night. It wasn't called Saturday Night Live because Saturday Night Live was actually a show on ABC at exactly the same day, but not time. It was earlier. Hosted by the one and only comic genius Howard Cosell.
If my comedy history serves me correct, Bill Murray was on that cast.
Bill Murray, Brian Murray, and Chris Guest.
Oh, wow.
Well, yeah, they were the players. Worst sketches ever. And then
were they written by Howard Cosell?
Howard Cosell, king of comedy. That guy. The show comes on. I call him Sunday morning. I said, "Did you watch that?" He said, I said, "Okay, we have to go get jobs. Today we have to go to NBC and get jobs." And he said, "Yeah, that sounds good." So we dragged along this giant book of sketches. We went down to 30 Rock. And we walked into the lobby and said to the guy at the security guy at the desk, "Excuse me, can you tell me where Saturday night is?" Now, that sounded like a really.
He pulled out his calendar and pointed.
I mean, no, where it, he had no idea what I was talking about. So the guy behind him, I'll never forget, he's doing the jumble in the Daily News, and he does it without looking up. He says 3. And the guy turns around and says, "What are you talking about?" So we go up to 3, and we got a big book of sketches, and we walk in. There's people moving furniture everywhere. Al Franken comes in. We didn't know who he was. He comes up and asks if he can help us. So he was even a good politician then.
And also just the security of the day, a little different.
No security. There was just
just go that way.
If you have a weapon, go to 2 first, and then 3. So, but there wasn't that much to worry about then. So we go up there, and he leads us to a very nice person whose name was Kathy Minkowski, and Kathy was Lorne Michaels' assistant and was there, I guess, for a long time. But the show was 1 week old, and we were there, and she looks at us and wants to know why we're there. And we say, because, we're looking to get jobs here. And she says, "Okay, that I understand the purpose of your visit, but let me explain something to you. We don't have any jobs here. We're not hiring anybody." And Stu and I kind of said, "Well, look what we've done in this giant book of sketches that we worked on for over a year, and we'd like to give them to you so that you can give them to whoever makes the decision to hire us, and we can quit our other jobs and just come right over." So she kind of says, "I can't accept that. I just can't. I'm sorry, I can't accept the book. You seem like nice guys, but you need to go home now. You need to go away." Okay. And we're like, how about this? How about if we leave this with you? On our own idea of just simply leaving it on the desk, and then we go somewhere else, and then our phone number is in there. You call us and you say, "You come on in, you great writer, you have a job." So she said, "Don't do that, because if you do that, your fairy tale aside, I will throw it in the trash because I have to. Because the lawyers would not accept the fact that you just left this in." So we made the decision to leave the book, and we left. And in the elevator, as soon as the doors closed, Stu looked at me and he said, "That's going right in the shit can, isn't it?" And I said, "You bet. You bet." I said, "Good thing, though, that we didn't make copies."
Did you not make copies?
No.
That was it?
That was it. So now we're depressed because we know what happened was just nonsense. And so we go back to CBS. And then at the end of the day, he had a car. He was living on Long Island. He was going to drop me off at the subway station. So we're driving down 57th Street, just north of the corner of 7th Avenue. We stopped for a light, and he's yakking about, "Oh, maybe I can get a job with my father's wallpaper company, or maybe I wanted to kill myself." So as he's talking, I'm not listening to him. I look right past him to a door on 57th Street that opens. And when the door opens, out come Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi and Garrett Morris. And they walk right in front of our car. And he sees them, and I see them. And I said to him, "If you need to follow that car, like cab." They get into a cab. You need to follow that cab. So we follow the cab down 57th Street. It makes a right on 5th Avenue. We make the same right on 5th Avenue, right behind him. It is basically Thanksgiving time, holidays are coming, and 5th Avenue looks like this with people, anybody through your fan. So they pull up in front of the Atlas statue on 5th Avenue, and we pull up behind them, and he says to me, "If you're ever going to make an impression on anybody, do it now." So, okay, I get out of the car. He has to go. This cop is whistling at him. He's got to move. He moves the car. They're getting out, and I step through this, get in front of the guys and say, at the top of my lungs, "Stop. I'm not going to hurt you." And what do they hear? I'm going to hurt you.
I heard you.
So Belushi covers up and moves away. Garrett Morris gets out. The only time a black guy ever ran away from me, he ran. And then out comes Aykroyd, who's going to fight me. He's a tough guy. So he's like, and I'm saying, no. This is the story. I tell him the whole thing. Kathy Minkowski will leave this. So he hands me a card and his pen. He says, write your phone number on this. So I write my phone number on it. Stu has gone around the block like 3 times. I give him, and here's your payoff. They turn to head into the building, and Belushi goes over his shoulder. He looks at me and says, you are an asshole. And I said,
thank you.
Whatever, I knew it, but I did know him from Lemmings, and
yeah. Tell us. So you saw the original Lemmings, which was in the Village. It's now like a Citibank, that theater.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I thought it was. I thought it was the Village Gate.
Yeah, that's the name of it.
Yeah. Anyway, so what happened was Stu came around. I jumped in the car, and he said, "What happened?" I said, "I don't know." I just told him what happened. I don't know what's going to happen. The guy has my phone number, and 11 o'clock that night, my phone rings in my apartment, and it's Danny. And he says, so I pulled your stuff out of the garbage, out of the trash, as he called it, or the rubble or whatever it was. I just been leafing through it, and there's a lot of crap here. And I thought, thanks for calling, man.
Yeah. I just thought I'd call you to.
I'll sleep well now. He said, but there's also a lot of good stuff. So why don't you come by after your job tomorrow? So we did. We went over there the next day, and we waited a couple of hours. And after we waited a couple of hours, he came into his dress. We were in his dressing room. He came into his dressing room, and he started giving us notes on the sketches. So we went to the first 2 shows, not the second and third show.
Which was George Carlin, I think, and Rob Reiner.
Carlin was the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Richard Pryor was the second one. And
so you were there for Richard Pryor?
Richard Pryor and the famous Chevy sketch.
Yeah.
I got one more kind of psychological test we always do here. It's just a word association. I'll throw you out a few words. Anything that comes to your mind, just throw it back at me, okay? Just kind of an arbitrary thing. Like if I said dog, you'd say tree.
And the third one, I think, was Murphy Brown, or whatever her name is. So what happened was he helped us put together a pack, and he gave it to Lorne. And we had a meeting with Lorne, and he was so nice to us, and he was so kind. He said, I never read it. He said, he gave it to me. I never read it. But we don't have any jobs, but we'll keep you in mind. And Danny's a really big fan of yours, and he's going to push you if we ever hire anybody. So we reported this to Danny. We went to his office, and we told him what had happened. And he said, okay. He said, well, until that happens, let me pick up the phone and call Sean Kelly over at National Lampoon magazine, which he did. And we went over the next day, and we had a meeting with Sean. He said, you guys could come write for the magazine. And I quit my job that day.
Yeah, who was on staff then? It was like John Hughes, John
Hughes was a contributing editor like we were.
PJ O'Rourke.
He was there. Sean Kelly, Tony Hendra, Ellis Weiner, Danny Abelson, Peter Kaminsky, Jerry Sussman, Peter Kleinman, just to name a few. Just to back up, what was like the vibe of seeing like Lemmings live? I mean, I've seen it like it's up on YouTube, but what was it? Much better live. I've seen it on YouTube as well.
Yeah, well, it's just YouTube with
great.
Cameras, but yeah,
you had amazing musicians, and had Sean Kelly and Tony Hendra and those guys writing lyrics for them, and Chris Guest, and they had an amazing cast. Guest Paul Jacobs was the leading musician in the group. Had Alice Playton, the great Alice Playton, Belushi, Chevy.
Hey, yo, buddy, man. Oh, it's been such a guy. 1, 2, 3, man.
Yeah, I mean, Belushi it's so funny because Belushi's like the star of the show.
He was.
Chevy's very secondary, and then it came Saturday Night Live, and then that just flipped on the first season.
Well, yeah, I mean, Chevy was a phenomenon. He was a phenomenon. But that was a great show. I loved the show so much. It went back like 10 days later. I went back to see it again. And then this happened. When I saw him on the screen that first Saturday night, he was in the first sketch with Michael O'Donoghue.
Yeah, the Wolverine sketch.
Yeah, he's in the Wolverine sketch. I thought, holy fuck, that's the guy from Lemmings. He's great.
Repeat after me. I would like to feed your fingertips
to feed your fingertips
to the Wolverines.
to the Wolverines.
Then they were doing National Lampoon Radio Hour.
Yep.
And John was on that. And
Bill Murray, Harold Ramis,
yeah,
Gilda.
Yeah. Then they went on they did the tour. They did the National Lampoon tour with Joe Flaherty and Gilda and all the rest of them.
I mean, it's like, you think about it, it's like such a small group that influenced so much comedy, because that stems to like SCTV and, you know, the Second City original cast, and, you know, National Lampoon to Saturday Night Live.
Well, they were like intermarried.
Yeah.
So
well, they're just getting the best of the best, a small group of the best of the best.
Yeah. And we felt privileged to have two of those, you know, SCTV and National Lampoon. It was great.
Yeah. Is that like through the National Lampoon? Is that how you got working for SCTV? And I kind of know one little thing that I researched this morning from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Which I never knew existed.
It's the best location in the nation. CLEV.
How could you mess that up? Because it's like you have the same talent as SCTV, but also at one time John Candy had a sketch show called like Big City Comedy.
Big City Comedy, yeah,
where you have the same talent.
He was doing that, I think, when we did the From Cleveland show. What happened with that was a guy named Rocco Orbisi who had produced the Richard Pryor show on NBC, which was legendary 3 or 4 episode show that was.
Yeah.
And he was the one that conceived of the opening where the camera keeps pulling back and Richard is not only naked but neutered.
I've given up absolutely nothing. So enjoy the show.
When talking about how the executives are keeping hands off, and is very amazingly funny. So we worked with Rocco on a couple of shows, and he reached out to us when he had gone to CBS, and he sold us, as Joe Biden would say, this cockamamie idea that he would have a traveling troupe of writers and actors and go from city to city across the United States with a CBS late night Friday night special once a month. He thought this would work. We knew it was a terrible idea.
So it would have been like from Cleveland, and the next episode would have been like from
Pittsburgh,
or something, or
from San Francisco, from where, and then you try to find all of the local flavor, which we attempted to do. But Rocco was from Cleveland. He is from Cleveland, and he talked. It didn't take much talking into. He said, "You guys want to go to Cleveland?" We said, "Of course. Who the fuck wouldn't want to in the winter?" So we did. We went. There were a number of writers that went, and it was Catherine and Eugene. Joe really hated the experience, but he went anyway.
But he's a Pittsburgh guy. He should be used to the weather.
yeah, but he just hated the idea of it. But I guess he wanted a job. It was in between the death of the SCTV syndicated show and the birth of the NBC version. So that year they didn't have much to do, and so he went along with it as well, and Dave Thomas, of course. So that was the cast, and we wrote. Everything that we wrote in Cleveland at Jimmy Swingo's. You got to hit the G. Jimmy Swingo's Celebrity Hotel, where while we were there, it was the show business central of Cleveland. The Boomtown Rats were there. Blackstone the Magician was there. Smokey Robinson was there. Also, there was someone murdered on the roof while we were there. So The Pretenders. I mean, it was pretty amazing, actually. So we did the show in, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, and we had the most fun. You know, we came back to LA and Rocco put it together, and we were supposed to have a voice running throughout the thing, kind of a interstitial character, and it was a guy named Kid Leo, and Kid Leo was the #1 disc jockey in Cleveland. And so now it was time to do his voiceover stuff, and he backed out. So we didn't have anybody. And he said, boy, we could use somebody really interesting, as Rocco said. And I said to him, well, you know, we know Bob and Ray. Stu and I know Bob and Ray. And he said, so we made a call and said, you guys, would you want to come to Santa Monica and do this voiceover stuff? And they did. And probably the best part of the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing that, you know, I never knew that existed until this morning. And so that led to you, was it the 1982 season you wrote for SCTV?
81, 82. What happened, that was in 80.
Yeah.
And we did Cleveland in March, April, maybe May of 80. We had gotten very close to Eugene. And we were spending a lot of time at Eugene's house in the Valley, at his swimming pool that particular summer. When SCTV got picked up, everyone who had done the Cleveland show who was doing SCTV wanted us to come. So it saved our asses too, because there was a Writers Guild strike that year, and we were literally on strike. We had to get a clearance from the Writers Guild and the Canadian Guild to work up there, and we got clearance from both, and so we managed to have a job during that strike.
Was it written in Toronto? Because originally they wrote it in Edmonton. They put him up in a hotel, but I guess when they had more money.
No, it was never. No, the first round was all done in Toronto.
Yeah. The early SCTV.
Well,
the Edmonton,
syndicated shows. The Edmonton is Evanston, Illinois, and Edmonton. Edmonton, Alberta came into the scene because there was a guy, his name was Dr. Allard, and I think he was the first Canadian billionaire. And he put up the money to do the show. And if it was done on his stages in Edmonton. So that's why the show was shot there. And later I think maybe in the second half of the second season, they moved the whole operation back to Toronto.
But what was that writer's room like? I mean,
in sketch, there really is no writer's room. There's not like a sitcom where everybody sits around a table and pitches jokes all day. I mean, there are gatherings, but there's no all day in the writer's room. You know, sketch work that we did on SCTV and I did on MADtv for years was very kind of single vision. Much more single vision than the group think of a sitcom, you know. It was more like independent contracting than working on a team, you know. The first couple of drafts anyway, until if it gets picked for a table, if it gets picked at the table, then there's probably can be rewrites on it. So we were sort of individually doing pitching and doing our own work, and that's the way that worked.
Were you involved with Polynesian Town?
What a day. I lost my business. I lost my best friend. And I lost my pants.
Forget it, LaRue. This is Polynesian Town.
Only as a very close observer. Because the legend was there was going to be a boom shot.
Yeah, crane shot.
I mean a crane shot. Yeah, there's going to be a crane shot. And we thought, how can there be a crane shot on a show that has a budget of $400?
Yeah.
Happen. Sure enough, the legendary crane shot showed up, and I was standing right behind the crane, just drinking it in. Because Johnny Candy, that's all he wanted. He wanted, if he could get that crane shot, he knew this sketch would sing, and it did. But it could have sung even without the crane shot.
You mean John Candy, the person, wanted the crane shot?
I don't mean Johnny LaRue. Johnny LaRue wanted the crane shot.
No, because he wanted the. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Johnny LaRue was one of the great artists. Just ask him. I mean.
Yeah. And who did you really gravitate to, like as comedically on? You mentioned Eugene Levy, but who else did?
John.
Yeah.
We wrote for Andrea a few times. We wrote the Brooke Shields sketch for Catherine, where Joe plays Kirk Douglas.
I'll tell you, Kirk, kids are nothing but trouble. That is until you get the first residual check.
Well, at least you had a girl. I had nothing but boys.
Is Michael Douglas your son?
Yes, he is.
Ooh, I do it.
Watch what you say, young lady.
I'll say whatever I like. It's my show.
And you're my daughter.
Yeah, well, I'm not your daughter. I'm your ticket to ride.
Put her over his knee. One amazing sketch, about 5 of us got together. We wrote this sketch, and it was a parody of the of 2 movies, Ship of Fools, which is a great film, and Lifeboat, which is an Alfred Hitchcock film, which takes place almost entirely in a lifeboat. And the guest is a blues singer. His name escapes me. For some reason, I could think of it almost any other. There are 2 things. I can never remember her name. I can never remember the word fire hydrant. I just did. But I usually can't. It's like, if you depend on me saving your life in a fire, you're fucked. Because the thing that's outside, like you're playing charades and the house is on fire. Anyway, so we wrote this incredibly funny 24-page sketch.
I got that almost encompassing a whole episode sort of thing, or
it would have been at least a third of it. But she backed out the morning of the shoot, and they had built this lifeboat, and John was going to play Curly of the Three Stooges. Robert Mitchum was Joe, and Catherine was playing Betty Davis, going blind, and it was just great.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. So
yeah, and what I liked is SCTV is all the cast members, like most of their brothers were also writers. Like Martin Short, Joe Flaherty. Well, no, Dan Aykroyd, but his brother, Peter.
Peter, Peter was a great guy, by the way. Yeah, Paul Flaherty, who is a big talent to this day. He did a lot of stuff on that show. He did all of Joe's singing. Anytime Joe played anybody who sang, Paul sang.
Oh, they dubbed it in for his voice?
Yeah. He played kind of cowboy crooner and who made an album, and Paul did that. Paul
was he an SE, or was he a Second City person as well, or
Paul?
Yeah.
No, he was not. But I do think. Well, you know what? I think maybe he did play the piano in the old fire hall in Toronto. I'm not sure. But he was there doing that. And then you had, of course, Michael Short, Marty's brother, who was there when Marty wasn't there. Marty was not there.
Oh, he was first. Oh, okay.
Mike was first by a lot. He was there. And then Marty came in the second NBC season. And Mike was there at that time. Mike was never in the office, though. He was... he seemed to be living in a lake house in Ontario somewhere, and he never showed up. And he just would send in envelopes full of jokes, which was great. He's great. He's also a great guy.
Well, they're Canadians. They're nice.
Yeah.
There's this iconic, just a footnote, this iconic kids TV show that featured Catherine O'Hara, John Candy, and Dan Aykroyd. Is kind of like how the Monty Pythons did kids TV before Monty Python.
I saw one of them. Yeah. Catherine and Danny were very good friends. After Danny got us going at the Lampoon, we stayed friends with him. Then when we moved to LA a few years later, we caught up with him again. He was very big then. It was Blues Brothers time and all that stuff, but he was always very kind to us. And at the 1982 Emmys, in which we won for SCTV, Danny was Catherine's date. So he was sitting right behind me, and we had just the greatest time being together.
Yeah, I think I see a clip of that. Isn't that the Emmys where Milton Berle kind of gave, SCTV kind of a backhanded sort of compliment, and kind of Joe Flaherty sort of ripped into him?
I don't know if there was a compliment.
I can't believe that we got something up here bigger than the cast of Hill Street Blues, which we've done on our show. All right, I'd like to thank. Sorry, Uncle Milty. Go to sleep. Okay.
Maybe it's not even a compliment, but
It's just there was I think there were 14 writers or something like that.
Yeah.
So he and Martha Ray, who was delightful, were reading our names, and he kept going up on the names and for a laugh. He's just a cheap shot artist with an enormous penis, from what I understand.
Yeah, not currently though.
No, I hope not. If that thing's still alive. Snakes on a plane.
Yeah. So
yeah, that was the night. It was amazing because when we went into the place, nobody really knew the show. This crowd, this television crowd didn't really know the show because there were no VCRs. There was no way to record this. And the thing started at 12:30 at night after Carson, after the Tonight Show. Then we came on. So if you were an SCTV fan, you were dedicated. I mean, you were up till 2:00 in the morning watching the show. Now SNL had you up till 1, but we went right by that, So when we get into the place, nobody really knows who we are, or not we, but who knows the show. And then they rolled in Eugene Levy's Perry Como sketch, Perry Live Tonight. If you've never seen it, do yourself a favor. Go on YouTube and find it.
Is that where he's sort of laying down and singing?
That's it.
Is that the one?
You've seen it. He's laying. He has. Well, Perry Como had no energy, and Eugene had 52 times less energy than the real Perry Como.
Celebrate the time. Come on.
Gonna have a celebration, yeah.
It brought the house down. The laughter it didn't seem to ever stop. It just they wanted to go on to the next area, and they couldn't because people were laughing so much, and we were behind. We were sitting right behind the group from Hill Street Blues, and Stephen Bochco turned and saw John Candy sitting there, and then he put 2 and 2 together, and he was raving to us that he did watch the show and couldn't get enough of it, and it was some night.
And just to pivot, so then after SCTV, I'm just glossing over a big portion of.
Gloss away, brother.
It was 20 years before your next foray into sketch comedy with MADtv.
Boy, you are good.
Keegan-Michael Key. Jordan Peele.
It was in 2001, so it was 19 years. Yeah, you're right.
So MADtv started I think 1995, and then you came 5 years in.
Came in 2001. Yeah, because it was started out with these two guys, and it was a really funny show. I never watched it. If I saw it, I'd laugh at it, but I was not a viewer very often. Dick Blasucci, who was an SCTV guy, took the show over and called me one day. I had just finished a show on Showtime called Beggars and Choosers, which was a great show. But the show was canceled, and so I was looking for something to do, and he calls me up and he says, how would you like to come and do MADtv? Now, Mike Short was doing it. And I said, I haven't written a sketch in 20 years. I'd be so rusty at it, and I'd automatically be along with you and Mike, the oldest guys on the show. I don't know, let me think about it a little bit. And I thought about it, and I thought, yeah, why don't I give it a shot, And boy, was I right, was I rusty.
So once again, just jumping back in, big 20-year sketch hiatus, jumping back in from the world of sitcom into sketch writing. What was that pivot like?
It was not easy for me, to be honest with you. It was, It was difficult because I was surrounded by all of these Second City actors and writers, actor/writers, and groundlings, So these were people who had dedicated their years of their lives to sketch comedy. And for me, it had been a long time. So I got off to a very slow start. I would pitch stuff and they would just look at me.
Was it a very competitive writer's room? Like we hear
Not really,
the nightmare
no.
stories of SNL?
No, because people didn't know what everyone else is pitching, So it depended on what you had to, on that show, you had a very kind of ordered existence. Generally, you would read the pack on Monday at the table, and then they along with the network would pick whatever the sketches were going to be that week. And then Tuesday, you pitched for the next pack, and then you wrote Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday, if there was an audience show, you would go there. But other than that, then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday would be used every other week as a location shoot, or what we would call a film shoot, which really wasn't film, but that's the idea. So I got off to a very slow start, and I was thinking maybe I just need to get out of here, because I don't think I'm doing very well. And then I pitched an idea for. I knew Will Sasso, who is amazing, and his comedy god is John Candy. So it's a beautiful Canadian link between those two guys. I just pitched in because I knew he did Steven Seagal. He did a very funny Steven Seagal impression. So my pitch was very simply that Steven Seagal was now going to star in the TV version of the movie version of the old TV series Kung Fu.
All I want to do is walk the stupid path of peace, but you're forcing me to walk the path of pieces.
Pieces? Steven, what are you doing? This is the guy whose arm you're supposed to tear off.
Oops. Guess that's one for the blooper reel.
I wrote David Carradine into the sketch as the wise guy. Now, wise man, not the wise guy. That was me. It was a great sketch. It was so well received, and I felt so much better that I just went on automatic pilot after that, and I was there for 6 years.
Wow. And who was else in the Reddit? Was it like Patton Oswalt there, or
Patton was there before me. In that group of writers was Rich Tallarico and Stephen Cragg and the gang from the Groundlings, the great Michael Hitchcock, Lauren Dombrowski, Dick, so many terrific, Maya Williams, terrific writers, and became a very homey place to me. I really loved that job.
And how do you think you differentiated from SNL as far as like a show goes? Or was that always in the thing that we have to differentiate from not being SNL?
We suffered from not being SNL on one hand, as far as audience size and the whole vibe, Since our show was on tape, there was no live element to it other than, live nights where you do sketches in front of the audience. As opposed to the live, it's still exciting. 11:30, that you got to be ready, and it's got to go, and it's got to fly, and quite often it doesn't. But when it does, it's a miracle. I hate when people knock that show because it has been around forever. It's 51 years now. I think sometimes institutions are good things. And I think it's a real institution. And the fact that people say, oh, it's not as funny as, and then they pick their era.
Yeah, everyone has their era. Yeah.
If you look at some of those shows, you could see it was more exciting because it was almost like guerrilla filmmaking.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the material itself.
I went back just because, I do a podcast on the comedy history, and I watched like the first season. Yeah. And there's like, everyone just goes like the first season, just there was a lot of flops.
A lot of crap.
Yeah. Just big, long stretches of silence.
And just, you could see just ideas just dying, literally, like, you knew what it was going to happen, and you knew they were going to be there for the next 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's the beauty of it.
Part of the fun was watching it die, as opposed to years later when it was a little slicker And here, 51 years later, they still can't find an end for the sketches. They still don't know. It just goes, well, that's it. And then it just...
Yeah. There's a lot of non-ending sketches.
Yeah. But it's still, I think it's still great that it's around. I think it's been a great thing.
Yeah, and when you were working with MADtv, did Key and Peele have their legs yet, or are they still...
They came
out of the
there
gate?
in my 3rd season.
And what was that like when they...
It was great. I worked with those guys a lot. Because I realized the way, because there is competition. You want to get on the air, you want your stuff on the show.
Right.
And the Groundling guys were a cohesive unit. There were about 5 of them. And they all had connections to actors. So quite often they would go to actors with ideas and pitch them so that when they wrote them and it was read at the table, the actors would be jumping for joy that these brilliant guys, it was all horseshit. But it worked for them. And we didn't have that. I didn't have that because I wasn't a Second City guy and I had nothing to do with them anymore. And I never was a Groundling guy. I decided I was going to start writing for the black players, because they were underwritten for. So these groups, kind of what I say, they're highfalutin ideas, So I went over to Ari Spears, who was a great comedian, and I said, listen, I got an idea for a black talk show, and it's called Real Motherfucking Talk. He laughed, and he said, who do I play? I say, you play Dollar Bill Montgomery, kind of a Black Panther host of the show. Well, that's all it took.
I'm Dollar Bill Montgomery, and welcome to the only talk show where we discuss real issues in a real way. Welcome to Real Talk.
And we did 18 or 20 of them, something like that, over the years. They did a few after I left, but they weren't that good. So that was my niche. Even when I run into guys from the show now saying, you were smart. That was a real good way to get on the show. So,
were Key and Peele hired? They were a comedy... Weren't they're from like Detroit, right?
No. Jordan is a New York boy, and he grew up on the Upper West Side. His mom was a nurse, and his dad wasn't in the picture. And he's a truly lovely person. He was never in Second City, but he was an improviser, and he and Ike Barinholtz and a couple of other people went to Amsterdam.
Boom, Chicago in Amsterdam.
Boom, Chicago. Yeah, they were in Boom, Chicago, and that's where they were all discovered. Talent Scout from the show went there and found them. Not that they were hiding, but you'd see them, and brought them all over. And I was there the day that Keegan's first day, and he was like a little kid. He was like, I don't know, in his mid-30s and late 30s, he was not one of the kids. He was like a kid in a candy store. He was so happy to be there, and he couldn't talk to the writers enough. He couldn't have more ideas, and it never ended with him. He was always like that. Jordan kept more to himself and wrote a lot of his own stuff, a great deal of his own stuff, and was a taskmaster with the others when he would write something, and he would correct the cast, and he would fix things right there on the stage, and it was fun to watch.
Almost like a director.
He knew it was going to happen, and he's a tremendous director.
And so the reason they went on to the Comedy Central show was through MADtv, and that was their first working.
Well, they did a lot of sketches together.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Which one of you dim nuts is my Artful Dodger?
Hello, me old china plate. Artful Dodger here, pleased to make your acquaintance.
Okay, sell it to your mama, theater geek, okay? You missed your entrance, pal, and you left half the cast out there jerking their noodles for 10 minutes. Well, before you even came out.
They did a lot of the two guy sketches, a lot of, which they turned into Key and Peele show. Rich Tallarico from MADtv, who was a Second City mate of Keegan's, went with them from MADtv. He ended up on that show and did quite well. But I love that show. I thought that show was just brilliant, because they had a lot of time, and they had a pretty good budget, so they could do some really interesting visual things.
And because it was on Fox, was there a lot of like network notes, or was G feel a lot of freedom in?
It wasn't. We had a guy who was I call him a censor. He would hate that. Standards and practices.
Right.
Which I said, it's an anagram, if you jumble it, it's fucking censors. But he was really a lenient guy. He gave a lot of leash to the writers. He's a great guy. Really great guy. But was at every table read and had his notes, and but it was okay. It was all right.
And what was the most you remember laughing, like say in the writer's room or on and off camera during the MADtv era?
You mean the hardest laughing?
Yeah, it doesn't have to do with a sketch. It could just be something in the break room. I don't know.
The beautiful part of what I do was I get to laugh every day. I get to go to work and laugh. And that's a beautiful thing, man. So the laughs in the office were huge because you had so many funny people in one space. There was always somebody doing something funny or stupid or, but as far as on the stage, there was just so many sketches that just killed, just absolutely killed. So I guess, that's not a good answer, but
maybe it wasn't a good question.
Okay, it wasn't. But.
And just a couple last questions here. What?
No rush. I'm not going anywhere.
What do you say is MADTV's place in comedy history?
Sadly, not very high. I don't think people consider it a great show. I'll be honest with you. I think pound for pound, it was much better written than Saturday Night Live. Much better written, and we had a great cast. Always had a great cast, and they developed characters that to me got a little old. They keep doing Stewart. How many times can you see? But it always killed.
Uh-huh.
It always absolutely killed. But its place, in my opinion, it's up high. But I would guess most people don't even remember it now.
Yeah, didn't they reboot it?
They did. They rebooted it in, I think, 2018. My friend Jim Wise and Maya Williams were on the show. It was not very good. I mean, it felt like the ship had already sunk.
Uh-huh.
So now we're just, as they say, rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Chris, thanks so much. It was so great talking to you. I love the stories. I'm glad a teenage rich Halky stand-up clip brought us together.
Boy, how good was that?
Coming to New York, I find, is a pretty strange thing. I mean, I come to New York and it's fabulous.
Him as a stand-up on Story to Stardom?
My God, he's terrible, and it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah, but he was like 16 years old.
Yeah, I know. And he was doing Carlin. When I saw it, I immediately texted him. I said, did Carlin sue you when you were 16? Because you're basically doing his shtick. But yeah, well, I'm glad you found me, and I'm glad to have done this. I love the idea of celebrating comedy and the history of comedy. And I just not too long ago read The Comedians, not the Graham Greene novel, the Clip, not to be confused, Graham Greene and Cliff Nesterhoff.
Oh, okay, yeah. I've interviewed Cliff before.
It's a great book. It's a great book because it just reminds you so much of the greatness of comedy.
Well, also just comedy always just circumvents into itself. Everything comes from somewhere, and even though something might be new, it has its origins in something old. Yeah.
Well, it's like any writer will tell you there's like 12 stories.
Yeah.
And
the Greeks were saying
maybe not even 12, maybe 8 addendum of the other 4. But that's true. It's just how the magician makes the magic work every time.
Yeah, you could say, Seinfeld's Jack Benny. Yeah, the Seinfeld show.
Actually, very closely is associated to, in my mind, to the absurdism of Abbott and Costello, their television show.
Everything has to be influenced by something else.
Yeah, and they were influenced by all the vaudeville they did, and the burlesque. So it's all great. I mean, if it feels like a priesthood to me.
Mm-hmm.
including men and women, that just, we are all priests in that particular sect,
Yeah.
I love it. I couldn't be happier. That's why even at my advanced age, I continue to do stuff, I can't remember where my car keys are, but I can make it happen.
Well, Chris, thank you so much. I love the
Thank you.
stories. I really appreciate your time. And
You're welcome.
Thanks,
I'm glad.
Al.
All right, buddy.
All right, take care. Thank you so
Take care.
much.
Thank you for this. This is fun.
And that wraps up today's episode with our guest, Chris Cluse. And the quick plug, May 7th, 7 p.m. at Under St. Mark's Theater, my show, AI versus Human Roast Battle. Come out and see a machine learning AI take on a human rapper in a comedy roast battle of tomorrow. And you can find out all about my show dates on my site, harmonleon.com, or on the social medias, at harmonleon. Also, show your love of Comedy History 101. Like, subscribe, comment on Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts, or on our site, comedyhistory101.com, or on Instagram, comedyhist101, and on our YouTube channel, which is my YouTube channel, at Harmon Leon, where we show the video versions of the podcast. And until next time, bye-bye.
You're stupid. Everybody's so stupid. I'm trying to use the phone.
Comedy History 101.